Click on this, unmute myself. Go to here, bring this back up, and spooky review intro, go.
One, welcome to Rotn.
And today we are reviewing Tremors 5, A Cold Day in Hell. Damn, I did miss some stuff that was above Bert's head to turn that into a proper JPEG. Oh well, I mean, I did all that in paint.net. But with me as always, I have Tier Alexander. Tier, how you doing?
I'm doing well, my friend. How are you?
Oh, not so bad. Internet's working better, so things aren't being as stupid. We always have as well Angela. Angela, how you doing?
That was a fun trip.
James has been having some real world things he's got to deal with, which we understand and hope things start to work out for him better. And that's so he can go back to doing his own streaming as well. But continuing this tradition with us of going along for this one, we have Will It Forge. Will, how you doing?
Tell that hoser to come back soon, eh?
I mean, he's less of a hosier than we are, considering the fact he's from further south than we are.
Yeah, fair point.
Yeah, I tried doing something of having an actual thumbnail, so I went through and did that. As you can see, missed some of the stuff above Bert's head to get rid of. But otherwise, cutting out Bert out of the picture and then the gravel out of a different picture, not too bad.
I like it.
Trying
Yeah,
to bring myself up to some betterness of these things.
into the production quality.
Somewhat. Not 100%. But we're going with the continuation of the Tremors series, where this one takes them to Canada. Again, outside perfection.
Okay.
We still have nothing about what happened with El Blanco, any of that. And so far, since if this is the last of the movies I've seen, I haven't watched Shrieker Island yet. I will still say Bloodlines is the weakest of all the movies currently. This one, they hit the schlock a little harder for some of it and went a little more comedy than they should have. But
Yes.
all in all, still fun. And they actually made Jamie Kennedy's character better, in my opinion, for this one.
I
Most definitely.
thought they made him more of a moron, but okay.
Well, it's supposed to be that lovable idiot thing.
Well, I
'Cause-
think what they did was they had to try to find a way to have him have a character arc again.
Yeah. Well, because he's supposed to be that whole thing of taking over for it and whatnot. So it's supposed to be their interactions of each other. But I mean, if you really look at it, he's just playing the same role that, like, a mixture of Val and Earl from the first movie, predominantly Grady from the second movie, Desert Jack, whose name I can't remember his actual character's name in the third movie, and Tyler from the frickin' TV show. Like, that's the role he's playing. Deal with it, James. Okay.
I think it's just he's some snow Mexicans. Yeah, it's yeah, but you can't call them Canadian graboids because they don't have the politeness factor. So they must have imported them somehow.
Yeah, back when it was Pangea.
Yeah, you do have the same variant of the graboid lines as they had in the bloodlines.
Yes, just
Yeah.
so far from we can tell, there was no detachable mandibles, so that was at least nice.
Yeah, they got rid of the send your tongue roving.
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird. Like, are they a separate species at that point? Are they parasitic? Like,
You're asking
now I see
questions
why.
to which none of us are going to have the answers. It's that whole thing. It was a different studio, a different writing staff that took over for after the Tremors 4 and the TV show.
Yeah, I
And
know.
nobody's standing over them with a rolled up newspaper saying, "No, keep at least mostly to already established rules."
Yeah. Well, that's like for the fact that they're like, okay, we've already got ass blasters, but we didn't see any shriekers. So for all we're aware of, there had to at least be one graboid that went through everything, transformed into shriekers, then those transformed into ass blasters. Because that's the only way it would have worked, because, you don't just get ass blasters on their own. I mean, it would make sense. It would make
it's the
somewhat
graboid
sense.
circle of life.
Yes, but from
don't say nothing.
everything we've got on that one, as well, is they were frozen underneath the ice, and it was most likely from eggs, and they weren't like frozen graboids.
Yeah, no, you see the eggs in the movie.
Yeah.
In the
But that's
pool
so-
of melted water.
Mm-hmm.
Like, again, it raises the question: if they were frozen under the ice, the permafrost, then that means that it existed far longer than humanity.
Yeah, they established that in the second movie when they called them Precambrian life forms.
I know, still. Again, like the point of the point of my saying is,
I'm sorry, T, but I have to say this. It's almost like they established this much earlier on.
go to hell. But my point is, like, how are we not? What's the word I'm looking for? I feel like this should be, at least more widely known instead of it just magically appearing. Like, there should be more of them everywhere. And our species should have evolved to deal with them.
Well, from everything we're aware of, since they were Precambrian and that whole thing, there was something that drove them into extinction. It's like into the current extinction, but the eggs can survive for extended periods. It's like for extremely long periods of time.
I was gonna say it seems to me more like locusts or the weird frogs that literally just come to the surface long enough to fucking die.
You mean cicadas?
Locust.
Well, because like there's cicadas that are like every 17
There's
years or
also
something.
a breed of frog that does that too.
I mean, all right. So in Bloodlines and 5, they had myth. These things were myth. They had stories about this creature. So they must have been dealing with it for a long time. And like, even though you said they were probably in some backwater village, it's still something that if they have tales of this, then there should be more.
Well, they're dealing with it intermittently.
Yeah.
I was gonna say,
and
unless
there's
it went dormant.
Yeah, there's no saying when the last time they actually did that, had to deal with that, how far back that was. I mean, you get some small villages or tribes, etc., and you have lore, you have the legends, the verbal stories from before writing stuff down that goes back a number of generations, and in some cases they only recall the general shape of the story, not the details.
Yeah.
And in other cultures,
well, kind of like
are...
we actually do have. I can't remember where it's at. I want to say it's I think more in Europe, because I want to say it happened during the Rome's time frame, when a village was like, hey, don't go up in that area over there, there's demons up there. And then years later, after like a small Roman legion went up into there and never returned, Yeah, they actually found there was basically an enclave of Neanderthals that had murdered them.
What was the
And were eating people as well.
that every myth has a kernel of truth in it? Oh crap! It's a collie.
Hello.
But is it
Hey,
a
if you
standard
weren't here
collie or
for
a
the
border
movie, there
collie?
ain't no point in being here for this, man. You're being.
Oh,
It's like you can't. I'm just fucking with you, really.
You
I
get
was just
out.
going to say, sell me on the movie.
It's a fun movie.
No,
Basically,
Yeah,
I mean,
it's-
I've missed a lot of them. Okay, sell me on it.
It's basically Bert is dying, and this
well,
is his last.
if we're even including 5 in that whole thing, it's like if you've seen the first 3 and predominantly of the first 3 and had fun, it's like and at least somewhat enjoyed them. I'd recommend them. I can't necessarily say they're going to be the greatest thing you're ever going to see, but they're fun. They typically don't schlock it up too much to where it's like, oh dear Christ.
yeah,
But
really,
it's,
there's
it's
only
not
one point
played
where they got
completely so straight
bad
laced.
about
Yeah.
that. And
yeah,
that's
they kind of jumped the shark at some points.
the for most part, you get into it and it's like, I could actually see somebody saying doing that in a high stress, high tension situation. The one place where it's just that electricity crackling and running along the outside of wires.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, that don't happen.
Yeah,
I want to.
that was
I want to
far,
get.
too far schlock in this one. Kind of like the whole, hey, we've already got the truck on fire, but we're still going to shoot a flaming arrow at the gas tank.
Yeah, we got the truck on fire with a rag stuffed into the gas tank. The truck is doused with gas. We set on fire. The whole exterior is burning, including this rag stuck in the gas tank. But it's not going to blow up until you shoot the gas tank with a fire arrow.
That should be
wanna-
damn near impossible to make.
But for this one, I want to get the director, stick him down in a chair with electrodes, and just have a button next to me. Just keep pressing it, and you kind of staccato it. That is not how electricity works. But
Yeah,
no,
like,
mostly
That's
for
something
the
you would
most
see in like a cartoon, like a Looney Tunes
Yeah.
cartoon.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
that or something, that or something on the lines of Ghostbusters effects.
Yeah,
And you could talk that off as basically, a mix between medium to low budget, and you kind of playing into maybe there's a supernatural element of the reason why it's doing that.
yeah.
Here it doesn't add anything. And like, okay, make sparking, make arcs.
Yeah,
Don't make the electricity do a
like crawling along the
crackling,
wires.
clawing along the wires. It
And
detracts.
I'll still say
Overall,
this.
though,
You should definitely watch it for Rob Van Vuren's performance as Swackhammer.
yes. Oh,
That was
definitely.
awesome.
I fucking
Yeah.
loved him.
That was fantastic.
Oh, looks
Yeah,
like Sally's
there's-
come back around. You named it? Yup. After an X. Sally Soulsucker. Bitch kept sticking her nose where it didn't belong. I'm just like, I fucking love this dude.
I still say that is another man's crotch.
I like how he finally gets the girl in this one.
I'll
Where her nose doesn't belong. Please don't.
I'll still say potentially in this one, like, the love story wasn't necessary. I mean, it was kind of there for the first because you kind of need it for Val. You didn't really need it for Earl in the second one, but they kind of put it in there. It was kind of implied, but never heavily shown in the third. It made more sense for the prequel. But once you got past that, like, it's never really been necessary. It's kind of like the romance that they want to put for some odd reason in a lot of the Marvel movies. It's not necessary. It wasn't terrible.
I gotta say it didn't detract in 5.
Yeah.
You're right.
Oh, it didn't. It was. It's again. It's that whole thing of just like, if they would have done without it, there would have been no loss in this movie, even in the last one.
Yeah, but if I'll tell you, you want me to sell you on this movie in one line? The government bigwigs are bungling morons.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, scratch that. The government bigwigs are cowardly bungling morons.
My only other criticism of this one is, but
So Democrats.
it's a huge thing that happens in almost every movie in that whole thing. I don't remember what Dr. Sims, the chick that that ends up having the fling based, or what's going to potentially be the fling with the
Jamie Kennedy.
Yeah, Kennedy's character. Like they don't. I don't remember if they said what her actual like major was or what she was a doctor of. But to be like all of a sudden that knowledgeable in medical, like that's a common or trope in movies that like the scientists are just like basically autistic geniuses of all things science and medical.
Yeah.
And it's like, I understand you're doing this for the movie, but in all reality, like,
yeah, no, it does make sense to, it does make sense to have somebody who is, of a medical, well, I say specialty, but more like their specialty is medicine, but is a generalized medical thing on a site like this.
Yeah, but you're gonna have more than likely someone there who's there for like let's do shit for someone who like broke a hand. They got a major laceration.
Yeah,
they're gonna have more like an actual like a general practice doctor that's got a little bit of specialty.
The first aid, we got cold, flu, stitches, setting a broken bone. You got the beginning of emergent care, not necessarily, and they've probably got the training, but no experience in, hey, I'm a surgeon. And you'd expect to have somebody, depending on what they're studying, you'd expect to have somebody with a biology type background too.
Yeah, but with what they were studying, a lot of that shit wouldn't even make sense to have there for some of them.
Basically like a MASH unit doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a general practice or emergency room type doctor.
Yeah. Trauma.
Yeah.
Somebody
the immediate, hey, I can take care of you here, but if you've got, if you got something really bad, I can stabilize you, and then we got to get you to a hospital.
Yeah, like I'm not performing open heart surgery on you.
I was gonna say I just performed basically laparoscopic surgery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Sean, in this one, like this was a 2018 movie, so they're not trying to make everyone gay.
Yeah.
I will say for like the two, like having the two extra subplots of like having to save Bert, that one I kind of thought was a little ridiculous, in my opinion, to then also have the tax thing on top of that. 'Cause it's like, okay, after going through everything he did of the first 3 movies plus the 5th movie and then everything in the TV show, the fact that Burt Gummer owes anything to the government is bullshit.
Exactly. That should never happen because he could bury them. He literally could bury the government if he so choose. He knows far too much, and it would bend over backwards to keep him happy.
And Bert's the kind that he doesn't have one kill switch for safety valve removed that to release the information to the public if something happened to him. He's got a dozen.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he's the foremost world expert in dealing with graboids. They would never do that to him.
If something untoward happens to me that is even remotely plausible, the government did it. Yeah, you're going to have every major and minor news outlet in the nation getting all of this evidence delivered to them simultaneously and repeatedly.
Like they wouldn't. All right. Again, I think the subplot should have been him dying, but
Yeah.
it shouldn't have been. It shouldn't have been like a graboid related disease. It should have been something manageable.
Yeah.
That way, it could come back as we got you the medicine,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a stopgap.
Yeah. Basically, we got to get once we get done with this, we got to get you back stateside so we can get this taken care of.
Yeah, and that's what it should have been. It shouldn't have, and it shouldn't have been that debilitating. Like, if you're gonna do that, like, have it not be a brain issue. Maybe it's like he can't hold his gun straight, and then at the end when he shoots the tentacle, it's him going, "Fuck,"
Oh, pulling a God, I can't remember what episode of Firefly that was. And like, nice shot, Jane. I was aiming for his head.
Yeah, it's him. It's him like just forcing himself to hold that shot and protect this kid.
And Sean, the government couldn't blame Burt Gummer for that, considering the fact of how much had already been brought up and been shown for that. Like, in this universe, this one, graboids are known of, and pending of what they did with El Blanco, of actually whether or not El Blanco is still alive, they are still, have at least one that they can keep. It's an endangered species. But again, we're talking about this is a different freaking thing, and it's one of those things that they probably had too many writers in it, because like they're showing for the writers of it 3 writers.
Each one came up with each one provided a different part of the storyline. That makes sense.
You know what I would have loved in this movie? Have one of the graboids not been captured. Like, cause it clearly showed that they get intelligent as they age, and you would assume that these are fairly old.
No, they're new because they're the only stasis element they have as far as long-term survival is the eggs can lie dormant for
millennia.
As far as we can tell, millennia. Because the eggs basically need the ideal conditions to hatch, and if it's too hot or too cold, it generally doesn't destroy the egg. It just
stays.
So
yeah, but this one was they clearly weren't hatched yesterday.
No, but you still have this. You still have the same life cycle though. So
it still falls into the whole thing as well. Just like with the first movie, we don't know when they hatched. That's what they call unnecessary information. That's why I brought up they had to have been around just long enough for one of them to eat, and at least one shrieker to survive long enough to molt into an ass blaster. It'll actually be like 2 of them.
2, yeah.
2, yeah.
But you can have up to 3 per graboid. So the 3 graboids in the movie might have been hatches 2, 3, and 4.
Mm-hmm. Well, and as you saw that, when the engineer stepped on the egg, there were several of them there.
Right.
Sure.
And were they like the next batch of eggs, or were they, these fell out of the ice when this melted and it's now getting warmed enough for them to start hatching? We don't know.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. We had at least one hatched long enough ago to have one full molt cycle, and we're to the point where they could be new eggs laid.
Because, like, the way I'll kind of put it to you is, like, you're looking a little too much to have them explain everything. When sometimes you got to have that little bit of mystery in there.
I won't lie. I tend to do that.
Yeah, I can see somewhere. I can see, like, we'll just have each of these things happen at one point with, like, either a movie or a book or a TV show or something. He's just got freaking paper things all over his fucking one wall. And that way, and he's got yarn strings circling off one, going to another thumbtack, and he's just like, I'm gonna make it make sense!
Like,
Are you kidding?
stop talking
I've
about my beautiful mind room.
three
Okay?
of. Say, are you kidding? 3 of his walls are cork boards.
Stop
Wow.
talking about my beautiful mind room. All right. I'm on it. I have a theory. All right. God, I just need to make it connect.
No.
But I mean, there is one thing that we do have clearly established through the lore, though, is that at least um, for certain ones of them, if they don't have, if they have the right amount of food, not too much, not too little, they don't starve to death, but they don't progress to the next level.
Yeah.
We don't know if that applies to graboids or if graboids just age out and molt automatically, and El Blanco's the oddball because he's a genetic dead end.
Yeah.
That part we don't know. For the other levels, we know that there is a dietary component for them moving on to the next one. It's why the one that they've got in Vegas, it's not generating eggs and everything because they can, very strict caloric control.
Mm-hmm.
And they had the same thing when they were trying to train shriekers for search and rescue. It's like we only feed them so much, and it's not enough for them to either
Multiply.
reproduce or molt.
Yeah, so they couldn't. Well, no, they had been modified genetically, so they could not molt.
Oh, is
Yeah.
that what it was?
You know what?
Okay.
I want to see Mixmaster. Like, I so thought the water thing was going to be, hey, it's a little bit of Mixmaster. But
I think that for this one, for the most part, they've kind of retconned that out, which is saddening. That's why I kind of want to see. I'm kind of looking forward to when we get to Shrieker Island. But I've also seen enough that they've been talking about getting in the works and basically retconning that as just a fever dream or something.
The entire TV show is Bert with the
parasite.
The parasite neurotoxin slowly seeping into his system.
Well, when we get through Shrieker Island, you'll understand. Like, I already know the what's going to happen in it. I just haven't watched it.
I know some bits of it, but I have not been able to. It's still in my PlayStation. I've just not been able to actually sit down and watch it. So I guess I'll just wait until it's review time.
Yep.
Again, I would have loved for Mixmaster to play a bigger role in the story.
But again, we're also talking about this as a completely different studio that's doing it and everything.
Right.
I know.
So, expecting that type of stuff to happen is pretty unlikely.
I know.
Okay, Rotn, opinion. Underground electric fence.
I don't know how well that would actually work, if it would even work. I mean, it's close enough in the theoretical because it's supposed to have the metal that's going down. So saying the current through that metal is entirely plausible.
And if you've got enough force, well, if you got enough force, if you got enough voltage, basically the pressure behind the current, it doesn't, the more of that you can put in, the less resistance you have to worry about between it. Now,
If it was
so I mean,
tape with the ground acting as an insulator.
Well, ground's a great insulator, but they threw in the notion of electrifying some of the groundwater right there.
Yeah.
As using the groundwater there as the conductor, and water's a good enough conductor for that in theory.
Okay.
Wouldn't work with dry ground unless you put a metric butt ton and then some of voltage through there. But
oh yeah,
it'd probably be more than the generator could produce. It would probably need more. than that single generator could use. It would need a hydroelectric dam's worth to do it.
Yeah, you're dealing with major power generation to kick up the voltage enough to overcome just grounding.
I mean, technically, it is just grounding, anyways. It's just whether or not you can pump enough through it to get in there. Like I said, this is one of those things to where they went into the schlock and they made it sound plausible enough, and at least they didn't try to stick with it for the entire thing. You know, they hit, what was it, 2 times? Yeah, like it was 2-3 shots, and then it freaking broke. So they went to his own concussive grenades.
Well, I mean, he burned out the generator.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, if you're going for pushing out more current and grounding it than the thing's designed for and everything, you're gonna have some issues. And then you do their whole notion was the graboid hit it hard enough to fry it. Well, that's a major power draw.
I will say before that, when they were supposed to be heading over there, that they were looking at doing that, of turning it into an electric fence, and Swackhammer's just like, oh, there's some dynamite, there's this, that, and, you know, the right proportions, and it can do this. And I'm surprised Bert wasn't just like, that is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that would have been perfect. I do have to say, I call out the comedic, some of the comedic elements. You know, when Bert's trying to get that idiot scientist back into safety and everything, and has one of those attacks and everything. They had the perfect carry out of the walk this way comedy out. It's like, do exactly what I do, and all of a sudden he starts staggering and falls to his knees and grabs his head halfway there, and the scientist starts doing the same thing. Of course, he's freaked out of his skull, so he's not going to be thinking rationally anyway. But I thought it was a perfect element.
Oh, you wanted me playing some Aerosmith in that one?
Walk this way. The scientist was a fucking idiot.
Yeah, that's one thing that pulls away a little bit. Now, they don't have a overall girl power thing. They have a really good balance of capability and limitations. You've got guts and gumption and everything across the board, but you look at it and basically, with one exception, all the male scientists were cowardly morons, and all the female scientists were...
I mean, the one dude, he wasn't necessarily cowardly, but he pretty much openly admitted that he didn't know what to do. A lot of the females, like, other than, you know, Valerie, you know, fucking Val from the first movie's daughter,
right,
and Dr. Sims with a rifle, the rest of them did fuck all, and the one that basically spotted for the others.
And I like that they built her up. Like, there's a reason why I can do this, because my father and I trained.
Yeah, that's where you didn't get a strong, independent Mary Sue Lemon. She had a backstory that explained it. She built the skills. She earned the ability and everything. I just look at there were a number of male scientists, most of which ended up dying, that were...
Yeah, you had Ferretzi, who was just an idiot.
Yeah, and you go through and it's like, well... very early in, just after Bert arrives and everything, you know, they're already operating under the premise that they have graboids.
Mm-hmm.
And what are they doing? All of these noise-making activities, playing horseshoes, and the women were involved too. It's like, you're all idiots. But then they had to make most of the male scientists even worse.
Well, I think that was more the build up Bert and his son. If they're all capable, if all the males are capable, then Bert and his son are kind of superfluous. They don't need to be there.
I mean,
well, you've got Yeah, you got the difference between we're capable, intelligent people, but
We have no
have
experience with
no
this.
we have no experience. We don't really understand what we're dealing with. Yeah, we understand we're in mortal peril, and that scares us. But to go as far as Frenzy, that's above and beyond. That's bumbling moron territory. And how
I mean that is a true thing though. In some of the, a lot, it's like some of the scientific community, and that whole thing of having people that yes, they are greatly smart when it comes to a lot of those things, but when it comes to their common sense of other things as well, they are a bumbling idiot.
I got one better for you. Fear makes people do stupid shit.
Because if you look at Ferezzi, he even said that he's just like, where are you going? He said anywhere but here.
Again, fear makes you do stupid shit. When you're afraid, you make mistakes. You know that's the whole point of like, don't give into fear because you
And then like the other dude,
fear is the mind killer. Fear is little death.
yes, but it's true.
Freaking Hansen, you know, the dude with the RC stuff that they had piss off the one thing. Like his stupidity was good intentioned. You know, he was trying to follow Bert's instructions, but he wasn't necessarily following Bert's instructions because it was get everyone back here. So he's like, I have to go after him to get him back here.
Yeah, he was. Well, I mean, he was the one male scientific member that
Because I mean, that
survived.
That is, yeah, because the other two guys, Acklark and Swackhammer, they were more like handymen.
Yeah, Swackhammer definitely brilliant from for all intents and purposes. He is the guy that you want there no matter what you need to do. Need to build a base, you want him there. Mm-hmm. Need to fix something that you think is unrepairable, you want him there. Need somebody that doesn't just go and do something absolutely crazy because it's what the situation accounts for and requires, you want him there. But he's not a scientist. He's not he's not the academic. He is. Yeah.
And then with Arclack, he's our local boy.
Yeah, local boy. Swackhammer's the tradesman. He's a brilliant guy, clearly.
Sorry. Well, my bad. Well, he is Winston Zeddemore. He that's who he is. In a field of scientists, he is the everyman. He is the one. Y'all start talking geek, and I'm confused. But you give me a hammer and nails, and I know what to do. That's who he is. That's who Swackhammer is.
I will openly admit, I did like how they went with a different outlook. Instead of having it be, typically just regular people who are going to panic and whatnot, it was put smart people in there who were, at least trying to do the right thing. They were trying to follow directions instead of it having being like just 5 people that survive.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, you had more than that in the first one. But, a small number of people and whatnot.
Yeah. The survivors you get, they survive for a reason other than just
plot.
Yeah. There's a plausible reason and explanation in universe for the survival of each one, not just we need this person to survive for this group. We need this person to survive for plot.
And you had to give them credit. The black guy that they had in there was not the first to die, but they were still cool killing a black guy. And you at least got to give him credit on that whole thing. Even though Bert's not big on the whole government and everything, for what those guys were, he still did his best to try to fucking save them when the fucking cuts, the DARPA guy was being a little bitch.
Oh yeah. No, but that's one thing for Bert is when you get, when it comes down to the line between people and graboids, if it's absolutely one of them's going to survive and one of them's going to die, he
Humanity's
doesn't
number
care.
one, baby.
Yeah, he doesn't care who you are. You're gonna, you're gonna survive. He might do something like leave you stranded on a rock in graboid territory, like he did to Melvin.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a situation where, like, we'll make sure you get rescued sooner or later. I'm not going to leave you to die there. You're just going to sit there and you're going to sit there and think about it for a while.
Well, not even that. He once he dealt with the threat, you can fucking go.
Well,
like, it's more of a for him.
With what he did. Yeah, I remember what Tier for what he did to Melvin on that one. That was with El Blanco. He couldn't kill El Blanco.
You're right.
He put Melvin in an impossible situation. Hey, you're trapped on this rock by a graboid that you legally cannot touch.
Oh yeah, he did do that. I totally forgot about it.
But you kind of you put the two and two together, and basically Bert is, the timeout champion of the world. You're going to sit there and think about what you've done because there's no way you're getting out of this. But the one thing he didn't do is he didn't let Melvin actually be killed in that situation.
Yeah.
He's always tried to save everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Humans at the top of the food chain. I may hate you as a person. I may hate everything you stand for, but if your life's in danger, I'm going to do the best I can to save it.
Yeah.
You could do a whole lot worse than being Bert's friend or enemy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to save you. I'm just going to leave you there for a minute to think about your actions.
That's exactly.
Well, he didn't even go that far for like the DARPA guys and all of that. Run into I hate you and everything you stand for, but you're human. We got to do something to try and save your life.
On a different note, though, I will say this. I was glad that for this movie, they got rid of him having the Desert Eagle as his sidearm and went to something a little smaller. I'm pissed. I shouldn't say I'm pissed, but I'm still kind of like, what the fuck? Why would you have Bert go to a 9mm? Like, not that 9mm is bad. It's good for for two-legged critters that might try to do you harm. But he knows what these things are capable of. Like, I was expecting him to have nothing less than, like, I don't know, a 40 S&W or like twin G20s. Get that 15 rounds of 10 mm. But it's Hollywood. I will say for the ass splash they used in this one, like, I don't get that one because it doesn't even look like it can close its mouth.
So,
and they also look dumb with having wings. They should have the things to glide along the side.
It's the same as the African variant you had in Bloodlines, and they still use the launch chemicals and everything.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder if the notion is
that
it's,
like we brought up earlier, it's even pretty much for the most part the same graboid as well. It just doesn't have the detachable tentacles, which for one of them they straight up grabbed that one chick by the pussy.
Yes. they down and thumped her.
And in that situation, it's weird because it's just like they just stood there. And the whole thing, because like I don't remember if Swackhammer was supposed to be around, like when they grabbed her and were trying to pull. It's like, I know one of you has a machete. Like, one of you didn't come in and like slice that fucking thing. I mean, again, in that whole thing, it's
Um,
kind of like hindsight's 2020, but
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that they had instruments
Yeah.
that could have cut through the tentacle or at least damage it to where it would let go.
yeah.
Like they're in a medical wing, if you will. And I'm using air quotes. There's something that could saw,
Well,
cut.
or you know, while Bert had her, since freaking Travis had his fucking rifle in hand, he could have walked up and put a goddamn round in the tentacle.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
only
And they
the
just
one
sat
thing
there.
that say I will give one thing in regards to that is part of the notion they were going for not shooting the graboid in the face basically because they didn't want to risk either killing it or damaging what they needed to
They
tap for the antibodies to help Bert. Now the thing with that is Bert being off to the side has the perfect opportunity to shoot the tentacles without shooting the graboid proper.
Yeah.
But considering
Well,
where they were, you know,
Well, considering the
and what
fact
they were
as
there
well
for,
that
you would have had a whole lot better melee weapon capabilities than.
well,
in-
again, we also know that those tentacles are supposed to go to about 3 meters, so that's about a little over 10 feet. Those fuckers
Yeah.
had to be like 12 feet long or whatnot, because like how long they were already out to then when they finally joined with the graboid, it's like, yeah.
But still, I mean, yeah, you get that a little bit of rubbery there, but you get to the.
But I
Hey,
mean,
I know
if we're gonna be
we've
honest,
worked out the reach of this thing. Just stand outside of reach, and any number of melee weapons will be
yeah.
a
But
go.
it also fell into that whole thing of like they had to give the graboids a few more kills.
Well, it didn't get any more kills there with that particularly. But it had to get its licks in.
Yeah. I think
Yeah,
it was they
so-
just had to bring the number of the researchers down more.
All right, so that's another thing that bugs me about this movie. The woman, not only could the woman diagnose his issue just by looking at it, that she knew the cure for it instantly. That again,
Kind of like
that
I
whole-
said, that's a fucking that's a trope for scientists in movies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like
and
you can find that in almost
plausibility-
everything.
Yeah, the actual plausibility depends on the disciplines of the scientists there. Depending what they're doing here, having a biologist on hand might make sense, although it looks like they're primarily doing glacier studies and core samples in ice and stone, so I don't know.
And so why a biologist would be there makes no sense.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
anything,
don't know how much they would have a
anything if that would
biologist
have
for
been done
that.
downriver because they wouldn't have them there in the first part of it. Because like even if there was life on it, it's like in those core samples for the biologist to look at, that would have been something. Okay, we've got this. We can put this in a thing and send this downriver for someone else to look at.
Yeah, but again, and it should have been something that can easily be, here's medicine, but we need to get you back stateside immediately. It shouldn't have been some sort of graboid related disease. It shouldn't have been something that debilitating. And it should have, because it added undue tension to the movie. They're not going to kill Bert this way. Like we know they weren't going to kill Bert. In the midst of a panic, not panic, brain aneurysm fit. And then have him eaten by a random grabber. We know that. It's unnecessary tension.
No, the only way they're going to have him eaten by a graboid and something like that, then you'll actually find out that somehow, like, he had more than it's like, biblical relations with a different woman at a different gun show and whatnot, to where instead of having a son, he somehow has a daughter.
Yeah. So it shouldn't have been that. It should have been, like I said, it should have been something hand-eye coordination where he's missing, and there's like,
and
look, dude,
tear,
you can't see.
like we already went over this, bro.
I know.
And it's that whole thing of like, we're already in agreement. You're explaining to you're preaching to
You're
the
preaching
choir
to
in
the
this
choir.
in this whole situation. It's Hollywood writers, and they wanted to add tension because a lot of them lack creativity when it comes to it. And plus, it let them fill time by having him, flash back to the third movie so they could just splice that footage in.
What was it called? Not B-roll. It is B-roll.
It is basically
It
B-roll.
is B-roll. Okay.
It's good.
I'm getting ready to fall asleep, but I did want to comment again, as I did in the chat while we were watching. I love like the little nods to Jaws that were included in the movie.
Yeah.
They were
Like
very
when the like when the girl was
Yeah, in the water.
eaten in the pool.
Plus, you can't forget the nod to the first movie, Take Off Your Pants. No, but this time it was a no, because she's going commando.
Yep.
Yeah, still overall fun movie. Again, it just doesn't have that wholeness of what the TV show had, even the fourth movie had.
Well, yeah, if you're a Tremors and Graboid fan, don't miss it.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
Definitely a
I mean,
fun time.
basically, just remember it's a Graboid movie. It's a kind of horror movie, so you're gonna be putting that suspension of disbelief a little higher than normal.
And it's a little more in your face with the lame humor than maybe.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, though in one case the AB takeoff, they actually did throw in a fart sounder.
Yeah.
I was surprised they
For the
didn't have a
takeoff.
Wilhelm scream.
They didn't handle the humor as well as they normally do.
Well, they tried to go a little. They tried to make it a little more action comedy when something like this should be more of like an action horror or a horror comedy with minor action elements.
Yeah, you and some of the places that they put it in, it works.
Yeah.
They're coming in. They just blew out the engine, and you got Mac there. It's like gravity never loses.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Best we can hope for is a draw. I mean, that was perfect.
Yeah.
And it's
well, then, like with them
exactly
making,
the
with them
kind of-
going through and making all the noise, having that like jackhammer style thing was all they needed.
The ground pounder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like quite literally, all they needed to have was like Travis and Bert grab it and just slowly bring it towards the edge of the hangar, so that way it makes the sound coming towards louder.
Yeah.
Yes, and BG, they do. I would say not just the nose candy. They don't skip out on the drugs. At least for the execs. The actors might be getting some of that black tar. And on the actor.
Depending on the actor. Right?
James.
And we lost James.
How dare you?
Okay. Well, I.
Oh God, no!
Oh, did you really have to do that?
Well, I had missed the part I had missed the point of the part after it's like we lost James to be like, oh, come on.
Oh my God! For your
Well,
sample, coming off.
Say James is down and staggering.
All right.
No. James is down.
But yeah, I think we're gonna cut this one a little shorter.
Oh shit! I thought I was on mute.
Oh Lord!
No, you're not on mute, babe.
We heard everything, all the snoring.
Damn it.
We know your
Because I was
secret,
listening,
babe.
I was just sitting here going, okay, so Bart's dying. Apparently he has some graboid disease. I think in the next one they're going to try and turn his ass into Tony Stark and give him...
They're gonna give him an arc reactor. They're gonna give him an arc reactor to his brain.
I can
No,
already.
he's going to have a suit and make him like Mantis.
No, they're not going to go that far into it. I can tell you that because the next one is called Shrieker Island. So I think they kind of got some complaints a little bit, being like, "Yo, you just keep bringing up just ass blasters and graboids, but you're not explaining the fact that it's like you would have had to have more graboids that were able to turn into shriekers to then turn into ass blasters."
I would love to see something different, though. You know,
Well, that's what the TV show was trying to go for, so it wouldn't be necessarily that, because you can only do so many movies with graboids until you start, it's like the graboids, the shriekers, and the ass blasters before it's kind of like you've played it all out. It's the same reason why a lot of horror movies usually shouldn't go over like 3 to 4 movies.
agreed. No movie should go over 3 or 4. No series should go over 3 or 4 movies.
Because, like, Aliens, the third movie was pretty trash. Everything after that has just been god awful.
Yeah.
Predator. First 2 movies are good. I know some people aren't too big a fan of the second movie. Predators
I liked
was.
the second movie.
I said I know some people aren't.
Okay. I just feel the need to defend the movie. I'm sorry.
That's why I said I know some people aren't as big a fan of the second movie. It's usually because they're not as big a fan of Donald Glover.
Danny Glover.
Danny Glover. And that
Danny
whole
Glover
thing.
was okay in that movie.
Predators was okay. The AVP movies, while I have a soft spot for them, they're pretty trash.
The first ABP is a fucking great movie.
They're way too much of the love child of someone who's just like, we gotta have these 2 creatures fight each other, but then we gotta add humans in there. It's like, if you're gonna have xenomorphs fight freaking predators, just make a movie with that and don't even really have the human element in there. It's kind of like what makes a Godzilla. Yeah, it's like what makes a good Godzilla movie Godzilla. Godzilla fighting other monsters. The human element is not a part of it.
Yeah, have the human presence be the one, they're the breeding ground for the xenomorph, and 2, they're collateral damage.
No, but they should have done for ABP is set it on an alien planet.
But we're not getting into that. We can do that another time.
Alright, do you know why that you have the AVP movies?
James, we're not going to get into that. We're not getting into that now. We can get that into another thing. We've been going for about an hour. I think most people are getting tired. I'm actually not really that tired, but I am relaxing finally because it's like my computer stopped being a jackass, or my internet did.
Well, I'm glad that your computer's working right again.
And the whole thing. But next week we will be doing Bullets for the Dead, mixing zombies and a western. And I am looking forward to sharing this one.
You got me looking forward to it.
Oh.
And then eventually at some point we will do Shrieker Island. I just don't know when.
At some point in existence.
Oh no, it's an island
full of streakers.
Wrong island.
I was gonna say, did you say streakers?
Tyr did, because he's letting his the gutter overflow a bit.
I think so.
Good out.
They called him the streak.
Yeah, Sean, the graboids dying a human form would be it'd be the end of the series because that should never happen. Like that was something through that they like did in what was it, the Mimic one or
Mimic.
yeah, and it's like that shit was just dumb. I mean that at least made more sense.
Say that would make sense to have something like that in the Graboid universe with Mixmaster, if Mixmaster could
Yeah, if they were to bring
influence human, if it could influence human DNA too.
yeah, or it basically would be doing it to like a chimp.
Yeah, or you could have whereas though an old graboid, highly intelligent, you know, and as just like El Blanco and fucking sterile, does something weird. I would love to see that happen.
It's kind of better leaving the graboids as graboids because it makes it hard to kill them. Like once you bring them, like once they brought them out of the ground as shriekers and ass blasters, that made a little more sense. But for the graboids,
Yeah.
and like having a fourth form is just taking it too far.
They do have a fourth
Because-
form. It's called an egg.
No, we're not talking about their egg form, but having like a humanistic form or whatnot, having even more forms that are going to be outside of the underground that either don't revolve around hunting by like sound or heat signature. I just don't want to go into it. But we're going to call it here. Have a good one, everyone. I don't know if Bunky's still streaming and whatnot.
More likely he is.
Who knows?
If he is, go over there and say hi to him.
Tell him not to fall down these steps.
It's Monkey. He's going to fall down the steps.
We're going to get out of here.
Thank you for having me.
I mean, you've been having real world stuff going on, so it's just kind of the way it goes.
I apologize.
It's all good, my friend.
Well, we'll be doing, like I said, Bullets for the Dead next week. You've never seen it. I recommend it. It's a fun movie. It is a very George A. Romero-esque style movie. And that one. We're getting out of here, folks.
Bye.
Have a good one.